Hi, good morning, everyone. Before we start, we'll have some house rules. So please make sure that you are on mute, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. All right, and also we'll have a picture taking session. And just an announcement, Taylor's College, in collaboration with Earth Hour, WWF Malaysia, we are pledging to support efforts to save wildlife, save forests, and save ourselves from 1st February to 22nd April. And we have the Earth Hour, which is on the 27th of March. Please have a look at the chat box for more information. So I'm going to share my screen now and we're going to begin. Okay, once again, good morning and welcome to an introduction to design thinking. I am Dr. Jesrina, and I'm hoping we will have a wonderful 1 hour session today. Now, let's look at what has been happening in terms of the skills required in 2020 onwards. And according to the World Economic Forum, in their Future of Jobs report, there are 10 main skills that we are needing in the future. And out of this 10 skill, if you can see, in 2020 as well as in 2015, we see that the most important, or one of the skills that is lacking amongst the employees, are complex problem solving. And I want to let you know that design thinking is a skill, all right? And very nicely put is that design thinking is able to look at skills such as complex problem solving, enhanced creativity, to look at emotional intelligence, as well as cognitive flexibility. Now, cognitive flexibility is the ability to adapt to changes. And these are one of the important things that employees need to have as they go along in their work or career. Now, before I actually tell you what is design thinking, I'm going to share some design thinking success stories, right? So many big companies, all right, or big corporations have used design thinking, okay, and have actually gained success. So I'm just going to share with you 4, which is the first one, Bank of America, okay? So Bank of America has used design thinking in order to increase the number of customers using their savings account. So through the design thinking process, what has happened is they have learned that customers like to save. However, they did not know how to save. So by doing so, Bank of America actually came up with a way where customers can save more and more efficiently, and they have gained over 10 million new customers. Secondly, Starbucks. Obviously, Starbucks wanted more customers to visit their stores. Now, to better understand what their customers need, they actually went around doing interviews, and they realized that they had a lot of solo coffee drinkers, right? So what they did was, these solo drinkers, they wanted to drink their coffee and do work at the same time, and they preferred round tables. So what happened was, now Starbucks decided, okay, we're going to have more round tables for solo drinkers. And I think if you go to Starbucks in KL, you can see a lot of solo drinkers on round tables as well. The third one is Nike. Nike wanted to promote one of their brands and one of their products to skateboarders, all right? So in order to be able to get these skateboarders to buy their products and be part of the community, they actually went around interviewing them, and they better understood what exactly do skateboarders need, and then produce a product in such a manner. Last but not least is my favorite story, which is GE Healthcare. So what happened was, the doctors at GE Healthcare, they realized that a lot of these MRI scans are not pleasant, not even for adults, what else children, right? So what was happening was, the doctors decided that they needed a new manner to get children to not be scared of MRI scans. So using the design thinking process, what they did was they created a CT Pirate Island adventure, which means that kids who were actually going for MRI scan actually felt like they were going on an island adventure. And this MRI scanner actually reduced the terrifying experience of children going through MRI scanners. Now, I have an audacious goal. So what is my audacious goal today? My goal in this 1 hour is by the end of this session, each of you will take home at least one skill or one tip to be practiced over the next few days. Okay, and what I need you guys to do right now, if you just join in, welcome. And if you're already here, I would like you to go get a pen and a paper in front of you. Okay, and while we are going through this 1 hour, I would like you to jot down anything that is interesting or anything that excites you. And perhaps at the end of the session, you guys can share it with me. And I will be also asking you guys some questions. So I would appreciate if you guys can just interact with me via the chat box. Don't unmute yourself. We can just talk over the chat box. So that's my audacious goal. Now, we come to what is design thinking. So design thinking is basically a 5-step process, which we're going to learn today. And design thinking is a methodology that provides a solution for very different problems. Okay, so it's a process, right? And the process will actually lead you to try to solve your problems. It is also one of the methods to tackle complex human problems. And we will look at it. Why? We will also frame and keep on reframing these problems in a very human-centric manner. Okay, we have a lot of brainstorming sessions for ideation. And at the end of these sessions, we would prototype and test. Okay, and I will go through these 5 steps with you today. Now, studies have shown that design thinking has a lot of attributes, but right here, right now, I'm only going to show you 3. The first one is design thinking is able to address wicked problems, problems that you think is so tough, but using these processes and using these steps, it may be able to address these problems. Secondly, one of the main elements in design thinking is empathy. All right. If you read a lot of business books, if you read a lot of management, entrepreneurship books, you would realize that a lot of people are talking about empathy. Why empathy? We'll go through that. Okay. Empathy focuses on what exactly the user wants. It's not what you want as a person selling your product or a person making the decision, but what exactly does your end user want? And the third one that I would like to explain is that design thinking is a method that actually encourages wild ideas. We will come to wild ideas in a while. So this is the design thinking 5-step process. Firstly is to empathize. Secondly is to define. What are we defining? We are defining the problem. And again, I'll come to that. Thirdly is to ideate. Okay, what are the different kind of ideas we can have or we can implement? Fourthly is to prototype. So you prototype your ideas, okay, to make it could be tangible or intangible ideas, but you still need to prototype it. And last but not least, we need to test, which means we go back to the user, we tell the user, and then we test it. So this is the basic 5 principles or the 5 steps in design thinking. So the first step is empathy. Now, we've heard a lot of this word, empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is very different from sympathy. If you can see on my image here, sympathy is when you are sorry that someone is in pain. But empathy is when you actually feel someone's pain. So in design thinking, we encourage the design thinker to empathize with the problems that the user is facing. If you empathize with the problem that the user is facing, you sort of make it like your own problem and you want to help this person. All right. So the first step, and I would say that this is the most important step, okay, is to gain empathetic understanding in the problem that you are trying to solve for the user. So you put aside your assumptions, okay, and you make sure that what they want and what they need is priority. That is empathy. Now, I am going to give you the first tip. Tip number one, okay? In my classes and in my workshops, I am unable to teach someone empathy. But what I do is I am able to enhance their empathy. And Forbes has informed us through a study done by University of Kentucky that gratitude enhances empathy. All right. So I would like to encourage you guys to join me right now with this short 1 minute meditation. All right. And we will go through this meditation together. Now, while you're going through this meditation, I would like you to think of what you are grateful for today or over the weekend. What exactly or who are you grateful for? Let's do this 1 minute gratitude meditation and hope that it enhances our empathy.
Please get as cozy and comfortable as possible for meditation. Relax your shoulders, close your eyes, breathe deep. Ask your body to relax as deeply as it can. With each breath you take, please invite an image, a smell, a feeling of something, someone, anything that you're grateful for into the next minute and a half of your meditation. Breathe in, breathe out.
Okay, guys, you can open your eyes now. And we are going to do a short write down in your piece of paper. What exactly are you grateful for today? So if you don't have a piece of paper and if you want to share it with me in your chat box, please do share it with me in the chat box. Let's probably have a minute or so. So would anyone like to share with me what they're grateful for today in the chat box? Okay. I have someone who's grateful for friends and family. I have a person who's grateful for a roof over their head. I have someone who is grateful that she's healthy. I have someone who's grateful for a job. I have someone who's grateful for waking up today. and a nutritious breakfast this morning. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy that you guys are so grateful for so many things. And now that we are grateful, can we empathize with those who do not have what we have? There are many out there. For example, someone said, I'm so grateful for breakfast this morning. There are many out there without even breakfast, right? They probably have lesser meals a day. And to be able to empathize is to understand that we are grateful for what we have. And there are people out there who do not have what we have, as simple as breakfast, as simple as a job, as simple as owning a car, as simple as being healthy, right? So the first and foremost, or the most important thing in design thinking is to be able to empathize. And I also want you to write down in your piece of paper, who do you want to help today? You are here. You want to learn design thinking. And design thinking is a complex problem-solving method. So you are here to help someone. Is it your staff? Is it your peer? Is it your family? Who exactly would you like to help? You could jot that down as well on your piece of paper.
Please get.
Okay, now, here are some of the methods and tools used in design thinking to gather or be more empathetic and to gather information on what your user needs. All right. So normally I get my students and the participants to go for a field observation. Okay. So assuming you are now trying to help your clients, right? And you want to help your customers build a new product or give them a new service. So you go to the field, talk to them, have a deep user interview, observe them, okay, whether they are doing something that needs help or where they need help, okay, find out their needs. What exactly do they need? Okay, so sometimes people actually verbalize what they need. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. Now, what I do is I get my participants and my students to actually create a persona, or what we call persona development. Now, some of this may not be very clear to you, but I'll explain to you what is the overall understanding. So we had a case, right? My students and I, we actually facilitated a case of a kindergarten somewhere in KL. And this kindergarten is a family business that is going through a succession process. Okay, so the mother is intending to pass the business down to the daughter. But in this succession process, they were having a little bit of a problem. Okay, so this is the mother. If you see on the left-hand side, okay, that's the mother. We got to know the mother better through our interviews and all that. And we created what we call a persona. And then we also interviewed the daughter. And then we also created a persona. Now, here we try to understand the background of the mother and daughter. What are their motivations? What are their behaviors like? What do they like? What are their hobbies? What do they foresee in the future? What are their goals? And the most important thing is we try to understand what is their pain point. Where is their pain? How can we help them reduce their pain, or if can, take it away? All right. So if you see here, the mother has a pain point of, she's a bit afraid because she says that she's not very good in finance, you know, doing these books and the paperwork for her business. Whereas the daughter has different concerns. She's concerned that, you know, in order to be able to get this kindergarten to be a success, things like low birth rate from young parents these days is actually a hindrance to the expansion of her business. So these are the different things that we see, the different pain points that we saw. And both of them actually have the same goal. They want a proper succession process. All right. Now, other than that, in order to understand what their pain points are better, we also have a post-interview discussion. So after we gather our data, or the design thinkers and the facilitators gather the data, I actually get my students or participants, right, to come up with what I call a SPICE framework. So we analyze the personas, we analyze the company using this framework. So what is in this framework? We look at the social aspects of the company, of the people, of the persona. We look at the physical aspects. What do they have? What do they need? We look at the emotional aspects. What is it? What is their pain? Where do they want this company to go? How do they want it to go? How are they communicating with each other, with their stakeholders? And last but not least, the identity that they want to portray, or the identity they already have right now. So these are a few things that we go through. This is what I call the SPICE framework in order to understand their pain points. Now, just now I asked you, who do you want to help today? All right. So on your piece of paper, you've already probably written, who do you want to help today? Now, I also want to ask you, what do you think the problems are? And what are the problems that you want to solve? So just now I talked about staff or employee motivation or customer satisfaction, or you want to do cost cutting. Okay, who are you helping? You need to know who are you helping. You need to know what are their pain points. When you know these things, okay, you'll be able to ask the right questions. Why do you need to ask the right questions? If you ask the right questions, you get the accurate pain point. All right. And you need to continuously keep finding out more, because design thinking is not an iterative process. Okay. You can go back and go forward. So we can go back again, but it's very crucial to understand what exactly their pain points are. This is part of empathy. The second step is define. Okay, now in the step of define, you are actually creating a problem statement. And your problem statement has to be in a human-centered manner. Okay, so I will give you an example of the same case study that we used just now between the mother and daughter. Okay, so a sample problem statement for the mother would be that she is having a traditional method of running her business. Her thought process is traditional. Nevertheless, right, she also wants to keep the family business going. Then we look at the daughter, right? The daughter has a lot of goals that she wants to meet. She also is very focused and she has a proper purpose. Nevertheless, she needs to communicate with her mother to keep the family business going. All right. So this is the two problem statements that we have come up with. All right. As we have been empathizing and questioning and using our observation as well as interview sessions. Now, my next tip is, why is it important to have a problem statement? The problem statement is so important because when you have an accurate problem statement, your problem is half solved, right? So what do I mean here? You know, sometimes you have a tummy ache, you go to the doctor, right? The medical doctor, and he or she would ask you a lot of questions. Where is your pain? How is the pain? Does it come in the morning? Does it come at night? But the doctor doesn't ask you anything and says, okay, I think it's gastric, and it just gives you a pill. That means that the problem was not well defined. But if the doctor asks you 10 questions to understand what is the problem, he or she would probably give you the right medication. Similarly, understanding the problem, coming with the problem statement, you are already solving your problem by half. That is tip number 2, guys. Okay, now we are going to the third step, which is ideation. Now, in ideation, what we do is we brainstorm. So we've already understood the user, we know the persona, we've come up or we've defined our problems. Okay, now once we've defined our problems, we brainstorm. What do we brainstorm? We brainstorm how to help our users. Now, while we are doing this in design thinking, we call this the how might we statement. Okay, so how might we, as design thinkers, as facilitators, how might we help these people? So I have samples here again from the same case study, okay, between mother and daughter, right? And we, the facilitators and I, came up with this how might we questions. How might we help this family business have a smooth transition? That's the first how might we question. And the second how might we question is, how do we help bridge a wide generational gap and the difference in educational background between mother and daughter. Now, while we are ideating, while we are brainstorming, we keep this question in mind. I always tell my students, if you can, put a piece of paper, all right, have the how might we question there so that you don't go in the wrong path or you don't go down the wrong lane, all right? So keeping in mind, this is the how might we question and these are the people that you want to help. Now, in design thinking, because design thinking encourages wild ideas, right? So there's a lot of brainstorming methods. And one of the very interesting brainstorming method is brainstorming for wrong ideas. Okay. And I found a video by Harvard Business Review, and they actually encourage wrong thinking out of the world ideas. And I'm going to share this video with you. So it's a 3 minutes video. Enjoy, guys.
Think of a challenge you're facing at work. Now, what is the worst possible solution you can dream up? Really, what is a truly terrible way to address this? What could get you laughed at or even fired? Got a bad idea? Good. This might just be the best idea you've ever had, according to designer and author Aisha Bissell. Her concept of wrong thinking on purpose may seem counterintuitive, but it's a useful tool in the challenge to solve problems in new ways. Here's a central example how Bissell pivots a dreadful idea into a brilliant one. Switch jobs with, say, a junior staffer or intern. It may sound silly, but this humbling as-if scenario can put you into an inquisitive beginner's mindset and give you newfound permission to ask, listen, and learn things that an expert would assume they already knew. Likewise, while you're playing the role of novice, your junior employees are trying your job on for size. They are now empowered with fresh agency to search, experiment, and possibly discover new directions altogether without the expected hierarchy blocking the way. How about this horrible notion? Spread rumors about your colleagues. If you flip the idea on its head to spreading good rumors instead of negative gossip, it could be an inspiring way to collectively celebrate their strengths. Maybe try failing intentionally and repeatedly. Sounds like a nightmare until you pivot it to a deliberate mistake lab dedicated to celebrating and learning from failure. Not only could this be a great tool to get over your fear of failure, but it can reinforce that we learn constantly by turning bad ideas into great ones. Banning technology at work sounds counterproductive and pretty impossible, but having a no technology day once in a while could remind everyone of the importance of face-to-face conversations, walking meetings, even meditation without interruptions from email and social media. Go ahead. Give yourself permission to have an awful idea. The very best one might just emerge along the way.
Yes, so sometimes having a bad idea is actually a good thing. And this is something that we encourage in design thinking. So I come to tip number 3. There are no bad ideas. For every good idea that you have, please expect that you have come over at least 5 bad ideas. And the bad ideas actually helps with your imagination. So when someone comes up with a bad idea, don't tell them it's a bad idea. Just encourage them. Now, perhaps I would like to give you guys about a minute to come up with some bad ideas and share it with me in the chat box. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute. Think of a bad idea and perhaps you want to share it with me and I can share it. Okay, so I have a question, bad ideas in relation to the problem that you want to solve. Okay, I have someone saying constantly changing MCO SOPs is a bad idea. Yeah, in the learning process. Someone says taking emotions out on others is a bad idea. Again, a learning process. Someone says having more kids is a bad idea, or arguing with your mom is a bad idea. Well, as a design thinker, I say they could be bad ideas, but they are also a learning process. Thank you for sharing, guys. Now let's go on to the next step, which is prototyping. Now, prototyping is an experimental phase. Okay, so in prototyping, what happens is that we experiment with the ideas that we have come up with, right? So we look at manners in which the ideas will work or will not work. Okay, so these ideas can either be accepted, or ideas that can be improved, or ideas that can be re-examined, or even ideas that you think is not good, therefore you want to reject. Now, how do we do prototyping in design thinking? Is we use storyboards. Now, why we encourage storyboards is storyboards actually encourages visualization. When you put pictures there, you put images there, okay, you are visualizing your success. I like this storyboard that was created by the design thinking facilitators. If you look at the last picture here, is a picture of success. They're actually visualizing their success, that the students are happy, the staff is happy, the business is booming, right? And how do we get to this final success story? We visualize the process, all right? So again, while you are going through the process, remember your ideas can change, okay? You can tweak your ideas. You can go back to the user, ask the user, is this okay? Should we change this? You can reject your ideas, or you can even come up with something brand new. Or if you think this is not good enough, go back to brainstorming. But always remember, in prototyping, we use storyboards. And the last step in design thinking is actually testing. Now, because this is an iterative process, which means that just because you do it the first time, you follow the structure, it doesn't mean that this is your last stop, right? It could be that you need to go back again, ask more questions, come back, right, to solve the problem. So you can be constantly redefining your problems, constantly going back to the user to understand their pain points, to see how they feel with the ideas given, to see how they accept, okay? Or in this process, we also can alter whatever ideas that we have made, okay? So again, you can reject, you can alter, you can change, you can merge two ideas and make it into one, okay? These are some of the things that we can do. Of course, in the process, we throw away some, we keep some, we alter some. So remember that your first solution or your first few solutions even may be a failure, but that's okay. In fact, in design thinking, that is better than okay. I'll explain why. Now we come to tip number 4. Did you know that Google actually uses design thinking for their innovation process? In fact, their innovation team actually constantly uses design thinking. And these are the product failures of Google. Have you heard of Google Plus? Have you heard of Google Answers? Have you heard of Dodgeball? Have you heard of Google Glass? Perhaps not, because these are their failed products. But as we know, Google also has many, many successful products. So my tip number 4 is that failure in testing is not the opposite of success. It is part of success, as we can see from Google. Now, once we have done testing, right, and let's say we are very happy with what we have come up with, and you're going to make sure that this is what goes out to your customers or your staff, we come up with a change management plan. Okay, so why do we need to have a change management plan? Because human beings, people don't accept changes easily. Therefore, we need to come up with a change management plan. Now, in this change management plan, we have to be very clear. What are the changes we are making? Who are these changes for? And why is this change very important to your organization or to your team? Okay, who will be affected in this change? And these people who are they affected in a positive manner or are they affected in a negative manner? Okay, and how can we help this transition, this change? Okay, how can we help people accept and work towards this change? So you have a very clear vision, you have communication, very clear communication with your staff or staff engagement. Okay, you communicate as a leader, you communicate your vision for change, and then you implement and empower people with this change. So we also go through this change management plan in design thinking. Now, I want to reiterate that design thinking is a non-linear process. We have 5 steps. I can tell you the 5 steps, which is empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. But it doesn't mean it's a linear process. So for example, sometimes you have defined and ideated, right? But when you start prototyping, you realize maybe I need to know more about the problem. I go back to the user, I go back to redefining my problem statement. And if you feel like, okay, the problem statement is okay, then perhaps you need to ideate again. Sit and brainstorm and re-brainstorm and redefine your ideas. It could be the same as testing, all right? So there are a lot of design thinkers who says that, you know, maybe try or test it out for 10 times. Out of the 10th time, you will get one possible success by altering, by redefining or reframing. Now, these are some of the case studies that I myself has facilitated since 2019. That's when I started with design thinking. We had one quite a big pharmaceutical company that was going through some challenges because of COVID. They are in the stage of testing right now. We have about 10 case studies that we have done. And out of this, some of them are big corporations and some of them are smaller SMEs. The case study that I have explained today to you was a small SME. It was a kindergarten. And what can you do if you are looking to use design thinking to solve your problem? Well, you can actually attend some design thinking trainings or workshops, okay? And there should be design thinking facilitators there to help you try to solve your complex problem. Or you can hire a design thinking consultant to come into your company and work with your company to solve your problems. Well, I think it depends on your problem. If your problem is something that really needs a lot of discussion with your staff, discussion with your customers, discussion with your end users, okay, then especially using your staff, say you want to train your staff, then get a facilitator that can actually come in, train your staff and facilitate a problem. And once your staff know how to use this design thinking method, they can use it again on their own. All right. Okay. So if you want to learn more about design thinking, this app can be very helpful. So let's watch this video where if you see this is the app, and when you click on the app is quite informative as it shows you a few design thinking concepts. If you want more, to understand more, you probably have to purchase it. So it's got all the 5 steps and you can have a look at it in your own time. So thank you. And I will be taking questions now. And I would also like you to share with me, what have you learned in this past hour? Maybe a skill, maybe a tip that I have shared with you. And I hope you had a good day. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.